everyone. In these videos we're going to be doing some small video lab exercises to keep you fresh on the virtual production pipeline. Some of these video labs that we're going to be doing in the coming weeks are going to cover or review topics that we've already have done. Others will engage different situations or things that we may or may not have covered in the previous motion builder video tutorials. But anyway, these are meant to be small, short exercises to keep you fresh and give you more experience while you're working on major assignment 2. These assignments will also be handed in. Now, for this particular week's lab, I have a couple of animations that I acquired from a student's previous project a few years ago, Arison Lordza. These are going to be actual animations that he recorded using our motion capture system at the school. So in these particular labs, we're going to be using motion animation that was used, or created rather, using our system at the school. So we won't be using the canned motion capture that we've been using from other sources that we used in the previous videos. My aim with this is so that you'll know what the motion capture information looks like when you get it out of the system, when you have a chance to use the system once we're able to get back on campus and have some lessons on that. But anyway, there's a couple of animations that I have for this week, and I think in this first video what we'll do is we'll get them set up so that we can start to work with them. I've also downloaded a character from Mixamo, this XO Gray, and I've added this project folder here just so you can see the different animations. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to import all of the animations that we're going to be working with so that we can characterize them. And then we will set them up to the character, and that should cover the review for this portion of the lab. So to get this started, I'm going to go up to Motion File Import, and I know that these two animations here are the ones that I'm going to importing. It's a jump and a shoot animation. I'll open those up, and you should see these import options come in here, and I'll go to Import. There are two takes, so we've got jump and we've also got shoot. So if I play through this, and I believe that these animations will not be characterized when they come in, so we're going to have to characterize one of them so we can retarget them to our character when we import him. Alright, so we've got this jump, and we've also got this shoot. And basically, when you create animations using the motion capture system at the school, you can label the different people that are being recorded in the space. So this one was labeled as Arison, so that you'll be able to distinguish who was who when you were recording, and it adds it to the namespace of the animations. Or you could edit it to be something else. It could be the name of your characters or whatever. So we got this shoot animation, and we also have this jump animation, which we're going to blend together. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is get this thing characterized. So I'm going to open up the scene file, and you'll see we have the Arison hips. That'll select the hip node of the skeleton. When we export motion capture animation from the system at school, we're able to export it as FBX skeleton, which is really helpful. And if I right click here and go to select branches, you'll see that it'll select all the branches. And what we will do from there is go to 0 and then rotation, and that will 0 the rotation on all the joints and force the character into a T-pose so that we can define the skeleton. So up here in the human IK panel, we'll select the define skeleton button, say valid skeleton rig is required. Do we want to define one? Yes, we do. And the easiest way to set this up is to go to the character definitions tab in the navigator and drag and drop the hips into the base here. And you'll see that because the hips, legs, and everything else have been set, the namespaces match up. It automatically will set them. Okay. If you want to add a namespace, like say you have two characters with the same name, and you want to distinguish between the two of them in your scene, you can add a namespace. If you right click here and go to add or remove namespace, because there aren't any actual namespaces delineated here, they're not going to show up. but we can append these with our own namespace. So I can go in here and say Jordan, and that will add the namespace Jordan to all of those if I would like. So if you want to be able to append it with whatever, so you have two characters that you're working with and you want to be able to distinguish between the two inside the scene, you could do it that way. Alright, so once we have this all set up, we can click on Characterize and we'll select biped, and if we hit the play button, it should start playing and snap out of the T-pose. Okay, so these things, for all intents and purposes, are ready to work. So what we're going to do next is import our character. But before we would do that, what I would then do is go to File, Save As, and I would save this into my lab. So I'm going to create a new folder here, and I'll call this Edited Animations. And I would save it in here, and I would then save it from there. So I would say edited, actually we'll say characterize text. So we know that if we need to return back to this, we can go back to this characterize take file. Okay. The next thing I would do is import our character. Now, we just one of two ways. We could characterize the character separately and save it as a file, or we can characterize it within the scene. And I think for this one, what I'll do is I'll characterize it within the scene. So I'm going to drag and drop XO Gray into the scene. I'll do an FBX merge with no animation so that it doesn't overwrite any of the takes that we have, and that should bring in our character here. Now this XO character is not characterized, so we're going to have to characterize it. So I'll jump into the scene here, and I'll look for the hips that are on the character, which is here. And if we want, we can select the branches and maybe add a namespace to this. So I'll go to right click, and what we'll do is add namespace, and we'll create one for XO. We'll do it to all the branches. So from there, we're going to want to define a skeleton to be able to characterize him to retarget the animation. So what we'll do is we'll go up to the human IK button and go to define skeleton. And what I'll do is I'll drag and drop the XO hips into the hips here, and we should see everything fills in properly. And we'll check off characterize biped. Alright, so now the XO is characterized within the scene, and we should have two characters here. We've got Jordan character, and then we have another character here. If we want, we can add a namespace to this for XO, and now he's got the XO character and the Jordan character. Alright, so next thing we'll do is we'll start retargeting the animation to these. So what we could do is select the XO character, then select the Jordan character, and now the animation should play all the way through. So we've got the jump, and we've also got the shoot here. So what I would do is then save this out as another file. So I'll do a save as, and instead of characterize takes, I'll call this characterize takes with character. Or actually we'll do with XO for this particular one. So I'll change this to with. Oh, cancel that. File, save as, say with XO. And then just save it. So now I have the characterized take with the XO. Alright, so the next thing that we'd want to do is then bake these animations to the character so that we can remove them and start editing them inside of our scene. So to do that, what we'll do is we'll go up to the Human IK button, and we'll go to the Bake Plot option. And there's two ways we could do this. We could do this to Control Rig or to Skeleton. We'll do the skeleton first. We'll have it plotted to here because we'll remove all of the mocap animation data. So I'm going to go to Bake Plot to Skeleton, and we'll keep the plot rate at 30 frames per second. We could up it to 60 frames if we would like. We'll do 60 frames here. So we'll do 60 frames for this one. So I know that these animations were recorded in 60. And what you're going to want to do is plot all takes. If you check off plot all takes, it'll plot all of them. And I usually use Gimbal Killer for my rotation filter. So I'm going to hit plot. And now we should see that the EXO character source is set to none. And if we hit play on each of the individual takes, we can see that the character jumps and performs this other animation. So now we can remove all of the motion capture that we had imported from this, and we'll set this up as a baked scene file. So to do that, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to take the Jordan Arison hips, select those branches. So I'm going to go to Select Branches. That should select everything. And then right click and go to Delete. And you'll see here that the confirm is grayed out. And the reason for that is because we still have the character that is connected as well. So we should have to select this. So we'll select these branches, and then we'll control click the character here, right click, and then delete, and go to confirm. We'll say one or more objects can't be deleted. Let's do yes to all. Delete the character, yes to all. And we should be left with the EXO character, and it should be playing off those particular animations. Alright, so the last thing I'm going to do before I save this baked file is I'm going to rename the takes. So we have these two takes, Arison jump, Arison shoot. We're going to rename these EXO jump. And then we'll rename this one EXO shoot. Alright. And now we have all those different animations created. So now that they're baked down to the skeleton, we can start editing them. So in the next video we'll start editing these, and then we will start to combine them. So before we do that though, let's make sure we save it. So we'll do a save as, and I'll call this EXO animations baked. Alright, so now we have all of our three files. We're working in EXO animation baked, and we're ready to start our next pass. So we'll see you in the next video.